And then was there ever a thought in your mind of college, or was it, I'm going to work?
Yeah, well, pretty much I'm going to work. I mean, I went through leadership school with ALERT.
Is that what does that ALERT stand for something?
Air Land Emergency Rescue Team. Yep.
Okay. Basically, it sounds like something rural that prepares people to go out and support first responder type industries around smaller areas.
Now, I exited right when ALERT came to Big Sandy.
You got out of that?
Got out of that and moved to Tyler.
Okay.
And so moved to Tyler.
You were headed for the big city.
Yeah, well, it was to me. I mean, this is the biggest city I'd ever lived in my life. And literally showed up, I think it was $1,000 in my bank account, and I had a 1983 Oldsmobile and a tool belt.
And carpentry was natural because your dad was a carpenter?
Carpentry, yeah, it was my trade. So I'd been taught to be a carpenter, and then so we moved here, and I started trimming houses in the woods. Ken Sr. gave us our first job here as trim carpenters, but then our businesses kind of grew.
It's my time right now. Yeah, this is my time right now.
Welcome to another episode of East Texas Unfiltered. Today's guest is in the mayor's race. We've got a runoff in Tyler. Everybody's heard about it. People have heard different things about the candidates. So what we thought we would do is ask each of them to come here and tell us face to face, what are the issues? Who are they? Why are they running? John, thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me, Chad.
John, I was born and raised in Tyler, and I don't know you. We've never met before.
No.
Tell us a little bit about, kind of your upbringing, where you came from and how you got to Tyler.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was born in a hospital in Lubbock, and until I was 4, lived in a little town right outside of Lamesa. I think it was called Wells. Yeah, little bitty town. And then my dad and mom were both school teachers, and he became a carpenter, and he moved to Vernon, Texas to start a construction business, which I still haven't asked him why he moved to Vernon. There's not much going on in
Right. I mean, it's not a populated area.
No, it's about, when I was there, it was about 12,000 people. And I mean, one of its biggest employers is the mental hospital there that we send all our...
Is that where were you born and raised in Vernon?
No, I was born in Lubbock.
Okay.
And so,
were you raised?
So 4 to 14 lived in Vernon. And then my parents got a wild hair and sold everything, and we volunteered at a ministry. And that ministry was based in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So I'd never seen snow before. I'd never seen anything like that. But we literally
Great Lakes?
Yep. We were about 60 miles south of Lake Superior. Actually, not that far miles wise. That's about how long it takes you to drive up there, just because of how, rural the roads are and everything. But, Watersmeet, Michigan. We moved there to a facility that this ministry was at, and it was a, training facility for young men. And it actually, my dad moved it in, I want to say 1999 to Big Sandy. So it's the ALERT Academy. I don't know if you've heard of them.
Did he get completely out of the construction business while he was in Michigan?
Well, we were there to be the construction trade school instructor. So they had a trade school there that taught construction.
Is this for men or people?
It was just for men
that were trying to, have a purpose or a direction in life?
Yeah. So the ALERT Academy is based basically around giving a young man a purpose, a vision, and then tools to go out and serve. And so we have a boot camp phase, and then you come out and then you have emergency services training. Basically, everybody gets certified in either wildland or structural firefighting. You become a medical first responder. You get your ham radio license. You learn how to work disasters, and ALERT, we get deployed all over.
Is that what does that ALERT stand for something?
Air Land Emergency Rescue Team. Yep.
Okay. All right. And so it's basically, it sounds like something rural that prepares people to go out and support first responder type industries around smaller areas.
Large scale search and rescue. And so they're very active in the East Texas area. They do, they're involved on almost any search and rescue you hear about on the news here in the East Texas area. And a lot of former ALERT guys are involved in first responder units all over Tyler. We've got some of the helicopter medics that we have that are in the helicopters at UT are ALERT guys, 2 or 3 captains on City of Longview Fire Department alert guys.
So it's pretty
And
well
so-
integrated with alert.
Yeah,
and-
over the years. Now, I exited right when alert came to Big Sandy.
you got out of that?
Got out of that and moved to Tyler.
Okay.
And so moved to Tyler.
You were headed for the big city.
Yeah. Well, it was to me. I mean, this is the biggest city I'd ever lived in my life. And was here to be a trim carpenter and literally showed up. I think it was $1,000 in my bank account. And I had a 1983 Oldsmobile and a tool belt. And
Why Tyler? Just because it was the largest, closest city that you knew of?
no, because of housing markets, we were looking at Dallas or Austin or
What
Tyler.
year was this?
This is about 2000, 2001.
Is your dad in this with you too? Or just you?
I had already left, and right after I left Alert, Dad retired as well. And he moved here with my younger siblings. So I was about 21, 22. And then he moved here. I have a sibling who's 2.5 years younger. I have a sibling who's 10 years younger, and then a sibling who's 15 years younger.
All right, that's a pretty big gap.
It's
there.
a big gap. And same parents. They just took a break there in the middle. But so obviously my two youngest siblings were still in school, and they moved here, and I was homeschooled all the way through.
Okay,
And
so you were homeschooled all the way through. From elementary to high school.
Elementary to high school.
All right. And then was there ever a thought in your mind of college, or was it, I'm going to work?
Yeah. Well, pretty much I'm going to work. I mean, I went through leadership school with Alert.
Okay.
So they had a leadership school there as well. But then pretty much just go to work.
All right. And carpentry was natural because your dad was a carpenter?
Carpentry, yeah, it was my trade. So I'd been taught to be a carpenter. And then so we moved here and I started trimming houses in the woods. And for the Wheeler family,
Mark,
Ken
Senior.
Ken Senior,
Yeah.
And then as Ken Senior was leaving, Ken Senior gave us our first job here as trim carpenters, and then we got some jobs from the boys as the years, but then our businesses kind of grew,
And then they got out of it.
They were predominantly development at the time, and I don't remember how many houses we actually trimmed for them, but. We got in with a bunch of other builders, and we had a decent sized crew, probably 7-8 guys at our highest as a trim crew.
Are you running the crew, or are you actually working with the crew?
Both.
Okay.
So I had my own crew, but hands on. I'm a stair builder and a cabinet guy, and
That's kind of the specialty in carpentry that you have.
yeah, and I'm good at it.
Right.
I loved it. It was, but once we got, as Tyler grew, I think the way I tell the story is I was looking at one of Brad Root's and his dad's houses to bid on, and he sent me to another house they were doing. Is like, this is kind of the quality of work we want, and I walked through it, and it was another trim crew, and I think they were bidding it at half the price of my rate.
Yeah.
And the work wasn't to my quality, but it was good. And it was one of those light bulb moments where I was like, I need to do something else. I was like, I'm too expensive for this quality of work. And we were top of the line. We really were. And our work was really good. We're perfectionists. But it really was. This was, I think the house we walked through was $1 million, $2 million house back in the late 2000s.
At the time, that'd be like about 4 now.
Yeah. Monster house.
Right.
And it was one of those deals. So, that's really where, and then that was right in the 2009, 2010.
Post 2008 stock market crash.
Yeah.
Right? Where money kind of dries up. I don't know if the building dried up in 2009 and 10 or not.
That's when it started to hit Tyler.
Okay.
So it was real late to Tyler, right? Like
Tyler's insulated
Yeah.
in a way.
Dallas got hit hard, right in 2008, 2009. Really, it was 2010, 2011 here. And we had been building spec houses on the side just as extra income. And
I've learned how to do it.
Yeah.
Probably, and you knew all the contractors.
We did know all the contractors, and really, even though I was a carpenter, there's really no aspect. I had done several summers as a framer. I'd done a couple summers as a roofer. I'd done concrete. So there really was no facet. I don't do plumbing and electrical. Those things terrify me.
Yes. Electrical would terrify me. But it seems like the guys that roughed the plumbing in early on, it's kind of the same.
Yeah.
After you get the pad, you rough the plumbing in.
Yeah.
And then you move on after the concrete, right? And start framing.
And so we've been doing that. And so I had always had a desire, and we're getting really thin money wise, right? Like, market's dried up, and we're just carpenters.
Where are you living
So-
in Tyler?
So at that time, I had a house right over by TK Gorman,
Okay.
right off of Jan. And
I grew up on Downing,
okay, yeah, right over, just a little bit north of Downing.
the cul-de-sac off of Devonshire.
Yep, I know where that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my sister-in-law lived there for a while, and I think Buddy Powell lives there now, and the Shannons. Yeah. So that's where I was living. Dad had a little house off of Barbie Road here in South Tyler, or down in South Tyler. And yeah, so that's where we were living at the time, and just carpentry. I'd gotten married in 2005. And so I was 4 or 5 years in to being married to Story. She was the HR director at Grace Community Church and School.
All right. So she had an income, which
She had an income. I think she was making a little under 30, and I was making about 30 a year. So,
and you're getting priced out of the
and I'm
market
getting priced out of the market
at the same time
as a crash.
that there's a crash. So this is tough, especially when the industry tries to come back, they're looking for the cheapest prices as they come back.
Absolutely.
So that's really hard to carry on as a carpenter. So what did you decide to do?
Well, the Lord really blessed us as far as our employees go. I mean, as you know, you have employees, and when that
care about them.
Yeah, you care about them and those families, and we didn't have to let anybody go. Everybody did leave, but it was slow attrition. Guy would come and be like, hey, I've got another opportunity I really want to do. One guy wanted to go back to TJC and get a certification. Another guy wanted to move to another state. And so that kind of just happened organically, and which was great as far as that weight goes.
Yeah,
but we
I
spent
know.
some time looking, and I'd always had a desire to actually build investment property. And that had been something I'd been looking at since I was 14 or 15. Like, one day I want to build investment
Because
property.
just the simple thought from any human being would be, I want to have something that makes money while I don't have to do something, right?
Right.
Like, I want to be able to do what I do, but also have an investment separate and from the risk of a stock market or a bond, right? And lease property in Tyler Smith County has always been real strong.
Real strong. Yeah. Our rates here, when people come here from out of town, they're always surprised
How
our rates are
expensive
great. Yep.
it is for what you can get,
Yep.
right? They're like, I can't believe that's all you get for $1,500 a month,
Yep.
right? I mean,
Yeah, it's big city prices. And that is interesting. And so I spent some time just looking on SCAD for tracts of land, literally, and at aerial photographs. And we found a piece of land over by UT Tyler that had been zoned for duplexes and already platted. And
is that what you built? Duplexes?
yeah, we built 21 duplexes on this little piece of land. And we started in 2011. I think we were done mid 2012, and that was our first investment property project.
All right.
And
Let's talk about that
Yeah,
project. Did
absolutely.
you have any exposure to the city permitting, good times, problems, or whatever? Because this leads right up to when you run for city council.
It does. I had already been a volunteer at the city for a while.
Planning and
And
zoning, something like that.
I had been on planning and zoning, or I probably was just getting on planning and zoning about that time. I'd been on construction board of adjustments and appeals. I'd been on a task force to review the city's building codes and adopt a new building code system at the time. So I had really started to volunteer at the city, I guess, in 2008-ish. And so just kind of back to alert. And my parents, I mean, civic service was something that was always kind of revered and respected. And my parents always respected us. So, people who would volunteer on behalf of the city
contribute
and stuff.
more than they take.
Yeah. And so
essentially.
that was something that from an early age was instilled in us. And so that was pretty natural. As far as interactions with the city, yes, I was already, obviously we'd had lots of building permit interactions and
inspections.
Lots of inspections.
Anybody who's ever built something knows kind of what happens, right? But as far as the stuff that you volunteered for, at planning and zoning, construction, would that be appointments by someone, or is that something that someone just volunteers for?
So, yes and yes. So we have actually a slew of boards at the city that are
Right.
all volunteer. Well, everything at the city is volunteer, pretty much.
I
Even
mean-
city council and the mayor's
Well,
volunteer.
the mayor's race that you're
But-
running from, what's going to be your salary?
Yeah, zero. Zero.
Yeah,
And,
people need to just let that soak in a minute before they send ugly emails and complain. This is a non-paying job. These people that are running for mayor are doing this for free.
Absolutely. Yeah, running for free and gonna serve for free.
And the planning and zoning, which, unlike some cities, people that are actually qualified in these areas serve on these boards to support city government, don't they?
Yes. And sometimes we get people who have, so you apply, you can go to the city and once at least a year or twice a year, they actually try to fill boards. And so you can go online and apply, or you can go down to City Hall and apply for one of these boards and pick something that interests you or something you want to have some input on. So the planning and zoning board specifically is highly sought after.
Right. Because people are always, when they make investments or outside companies that want to come here buy property,
Right.
they might want to change the zoning.
Right. And that's and it's, how they interact with neighborhoods. So you get all sorts of people applying for planning and zoning, people who want to have influence, people who are interested, people who are mad at planning and zoning
People
for
are-
an
yeah, like
experience they had.
And truthfully, some people, that have lived here a long time, maybe they may lean anti-growth a little bit.
Yep.
Right? Because it's not the way, Tyler, it's not the way they remember it. It's getting
Right.
too big. I don't recognize all these people that are here now from the 1970s, when we were here.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there is that undertow of friction, don't you think?
There is. And that's something you have to be cognizant of. It's something you have to be careful of. Because I mean, there is a place, right, for, hey, let's review this, but also a lot of times that those feelings and opinions can go too far.
Right. I
And
mean, you
actually-
can't just stop progress because you're
Correct.
mad about something that happened 2 years ago.
Absolutely.
Uh,
So,
And the city seems to have, there's enough people, I guess, on these boards to make sure that, the dilution, if you will, is not the decision.
yeah. And I mean, it depends on who you are, how you feel that went.
Yeah.
Or it is going.
Yeah,
But,
whichever way the issue goes.
but it is one of those deals. So yeah, you apply, but planning and zoning, you will have had to apply, but that more or less turns into an appointment. Kind of like half cent, which I sit on right now, which is a true appointment. Each council person has a seat represented on the half cent, and that's a straight appointment.
All right. So John Nix decides I'm running for city council in 2012 or 13, right?
Yes.
And you win.
I do. Well, I was unopposed that first time.
Okay. That's an easy win.
That was an easy win. And I have run highly contested races and unopposed races, and I will tell you the unopposed are more fun every time.
I bet they are. Because you served from 2013 to 2019.
That's right. So I filled a unfinished term for Jason Wright
Okay.
when he retired and went to work for
Ted
went to
Cruz.
work for Ted Cruz.
Yeah, I think he went. He may still work for Ted Cruz.
He may.
I mean-
I may have off and on. Yeah.
He still lives here, I think.
He does.
And he's married.
He's married to Jimlin.
Who's got the
She owns Hot Tots.
right
the
that
children's-
business over
yep,
there.
That business over there. And so he had actually I was on P&Z. He knew me through P&Z.
Did you
and
get
some other
recruited
stuff.
in any sense? Do people go, "Hey, you ought to run"? How does that work?
Yes, I did. So basically, the same day he retired, I got a call from him and Martin Hines and saying, "We think you should run for this seat."
Because I mean, the city existing, Martin Hines at the time might have been mayor.
He was just councilperson.
Okay, he eventually became mayor,
He
but
did.
I mean,
He was preparing to run for mayor.
I'm sure that the council members want, like-minded people, or at least people that have a business influence or perspective in some way, I would think.
Yeah. Well, I think it benefits the city,
Right.
right? Like, I mean, it is one of those deals. People who have that experience, and by that time, I was on my second and third development too, and so having a lot more experience with not just the vertical construction as we call it, but the horizontal construction, and which is roads, water, sewer, stormwater, all those things that go underground.
All those things that are the primary issue up to date.
Yes.
Okay. So just for the audience, I mean, I research so that, that one, I'm not ignorant of everything, and two, that I try to facilitate our conversations.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what it seems to have happened was somewhere around 2017, either the EPA or the, Texas TECQ, right, contacted Smith County maybe over some complaints or maybe over a series of overflows of some kind, which led us to where we are now. Is that right?
So yes and no. This is actually a fun story. I love this story.
Because you were on the council.
I got elected in 2013, and Barbara Bass is the mayor. Mark McDaniel is the city manager. Day after I'm elected, I come in, 2 days after I'm elected, I go down to City Hall to meet with the manager and the city manager, and they said, oh, by the way, we're being sued by the EPA.
Okay, so essentially you walked into a lawsuit that obviously it didn't stem from a year prior. It had built up over time.
And what it was is it was an EPA initiative, and they have gone through the entire nation. And they started with the biggest cities and were working their way down, and it was our turn.
I've seen that. They've done it to Houston.
They've done it to everybody.
They've done it to large cities.
They were basically down to cities that were around 100,000. So we got our loss. We had gotten our lawsuit. So I don't know if that came in 2011 or 2010 prior to me being there. And at the time, it was, I don't know, in your world, you'll understand this. Like, it was basically, they had sent over a copy of the lawsuit and said, this is coming, and had yet to really file it, right? And so under threat of a lawsuit, they were saying, we want you to enter into a consent decree with us.
Right.
And so
where you agree to make these improvements, spend this much money, and you have no choice after that because we, the federal government, will enforce it.
Correct.
And so that's what the residents here need to understand, that we've been living under a legal consent decree since
2017 is when we signed it.
Right.
And so it was signed while I was on council.
Which means if we're not spending money and showing them that we are making progress on the sewer, then they're going to fine us again.
Yeah. There are penalties in there. And here's what I will say about the consent decree. A lot of the work in the consent decree is good work. For the city, right? Like, the consent decree was basically, they wanted us to camera every sewer pipe throughout the city.
Camera
with a camera, like a plumbing camera. Run a camera down the pipe.
A snake.
A visual inspection via camera. Yeah, a snake with a camera on the end of it. They wanted us to inspect and seal every manhole. Reseal, make sure there weren't any cracks, any stormwater leaking in, lid off, making sure there wasn't infiltration. And after the cammering, if we found any breaks or collapses, we were to fix those. And so we have over 730 or 750 miles of sewer pipes.
Yeah.
And
it's a big job.
It's a big job. Well, and a lot of our stuff is old, over 100 years old. And that stuff we don't have maps for. I can't remember the last count of surprise manholes they found while they're cammering that nobody's seen for 60 years. It's been paved over, or there's been, something has happened, and nobody at the city or that's been at the city for the last 30 years even knew it existed. So we found a lot of those. And in the consent decree work, once again, the work itself is not bad work. The fact that we could not do it on our schedule, the fact that we've had to spend millions of dollars in third-party inspections that the federal government required and reports that the federal government is requiring us send them.
That's called verification.
Yeah, verification. But those guys are expensive. And,
on purpose, because they work for the government and they can charge as a contractor what they want to charge.
And of course, that's a specialty. And
of course.
So really, when we signed that, it was a little overwhelming from a price standpoint because it looked...
$65 million?
It was $75 million.
Okay.
Well, 75 to 79 is what what was estimated it was going to cost. And we looked at lots of ways to absorb that, but basically, at the time, we were able to just in water revenues and stuff, pretty much absorb. We were going to be over those 10 years to absorb that $79 million.
Is that what it was anticipated? There would be a 10-year project?
It is a 10-year project. So it's a 10-year consent decree. So next year is the last year.
Okay, right.
But 27 is the last year of our consent decree. So, we're kind of against, gun to our head to make sure that
So
it's
that's
done
why
by
we
then.
see a lot of action lately?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
why you're seeing a lot of consent decree action lately.
I see a lot of people digging up holes and around the city,
Yeah.
and I'm like, what is going on? Right?
Trying to wrap that up at the very end. And I would say where we have a real problem is that as we've gone from, through the middle chunk of this consent decree and getting near the end, it has gotten out of hand as far as the cost goes. We're going to be over $300 million by the time they're done.
And this isn't interest. This isn't.
No, that's expense.
Okay, so
And
this was
they-
anticipated to be $75 million?
Yeah, 75 to 79. And this is one of the issues I'm running on, is the fact that during the course of that, our current city council was not planning for how we're going to absorb that debt or pay for that debt long term, other than just going and getting bonds in the water department. So this is debt.
Do we have bonds?
In the water department, we have bonds and that are paying for this consent decree. But if you look on your water bill that everybody's flipping out about, rightfully so, there's a thing on there that says compliance, and that is an interest payment.
Right. And the compliance,
That is,
I don't know if it's
that is a
compliance.
debt payment.
Compliance or environmental fee. I'm not sure, but it's.
I think there's there's a regulatory compliance fee. That regulatory compliance fee is debt interest.
All right. And
So-
and so also, in addition to that, the water bills themselves seem to have gone up. If
They
you
have.
just listen to the population talk about water bills.
Yeah.
Right.
And some of that is this consent decree debt. And I've always had an issue with the fact that they put all the consent decree debt on the water department completely. Like,
Right. I mean, the choices could have been raise taxes on the entire population to take the burden on equally, right?
Right.
Instead of what you're saying is it's kind of been focused entirely in the City of Tyler Water Department and the people that pay the water
Yeah.
bills. I mean,
yeah, and this, and my issue with that is that since we're not planning for the future and we're dealing with this huge deferred maintenance bill, right?
we've got to
Like,
get this done, don't we?
we have to get this
I mean-
done, and it is getting done. But at the end of the day, we're going to have a $300 million bill to pay that has been shifted over to water bill.
Are we paying
our-
any of that bill as we go?
Yeah, we have been. I mean, as the bonds have been taken down, those have been in that regulatory compliance fee. It's just in the last 2 years, it is significantly ramped up. I think in the last 2 years, it's gone from like $5 to $6 million in interest. I think last year it was $14 million in interest.
Well, the changing interest rates since we entered into this
Yes.
legal consent decree, in fairness to everybody,
Very different.
have changed dramatically,
Changed
right?
dramatically.
Okay. And are you saying that maybe the work could have been planned better and we're rushing and doing more projects towards the 2027? Is that a factor as well?
Well, I don't know that we're rushing so much as just trying to finish the list.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
If you don't plan for the list, and
Yeah.
I'm not saying the city didn't,
right.
but if you don't and you look up and a third of the list is left and you've got 2 years to go, I mean, I'm assuming the
Right.
projects would be.
Well, and I think where we're really seeing kind of the specific oversight you're talking about is the fact that the consent decree guys are downtown right now. So that's the reason Max Gun Shop, you can't get to it. That's the reason Elm Street's completely shut off. That's nothing to do with the Square project. That's consent decree project. A consent decree project they've known is coming for the last 5 to 6 years. But right now, while the Square is torn up, they're doing it.
Well, that was going to be my question. I always, I'm one of these guys who just never believes there's any such thing as a coincidence. And
It doesn't feel like a coincidence.
I'm just saying, is the downtown project and the consent decree sewer project, are those unrelated?
Unrelated.
Okay. They're totally unrelated.
Totally unrelated.
But
and they've known the square project, in my opinion, which I'm sure we'll talk about, is
yeah, we'll get there.
is whether you think it's needed or not, which I think it needed to be updated personally, but was discretionary. That's the word I was looking for. The consent decree project is non-discretionary.
Right.
So you've got 5 to 6 years, this non-discretionary project's coming up. But instead of having the contractor like, hey, we're thinking about tearing up the square, why don't you run down there and get your stuff out of the way first? That doesn't happen.
Okay, that's not what's happening?
Well, no, that's what should have, that's what should have happened that isn't happening.
Okay,
that's what I should have told them 5 or 6 years ago, like, hey, we know you're going to do this. We're starting to think about this square project. Can you get in there and get through downtown so that's not an exacerbating factor?
Can't they do those at the same time? Since they're right now it's torn up, can't they just work the sewer in and it really not be a double interruption, if you will?
Well, they don't really correlate or run together. So the sewer that's being replaced is down on Elm Street, and it comes from kind of up where the old Napa Auto Parts store is Irwin and Beckham is, and it follows that creek. It goes from Max Gun Shop, then it goes underneath the parking garage beside Caldwell, and then out through the park behind Caldwell. So that's the sewer line, whereas all the square stuff's up in the square. So it's a block away.
All right. But there's a lot of stuff going on. 2027, do you anticipate that we'll be freed from the consent decree, or will it be extended?
I mean, I think that right now we're looking at force majeure clauses, which is like with all the rain and stuff like that. As long as they can work through the rain and weather conditions, I think they should be done.
For the people listening who heard the word force majeure, what that means is you contractually are supposed to finish something, but due to Mother Nature or other circumstances, the contract is not claimed to be in breach.
Right. You're basically able to submit a report and say, hey, it's been raining for 4 days. I wasn't able to work for these 4 days. I get 4 days added to my contract.
All right. But I mean, I'm sure you still have contacts, people at the city about this project. And so do you think that if you're elected mayor, that this will be something, that'll time out in 2027, or you'll have to deal with into, your administration?
Well, I mean, I would say right now they're on track to finish it in time or close to, and I pray, I mean, that's going to be a push. Obviously, we don't want to incur fees on top of all the other fees we're already getting in just inspections and third-party verification.
Does half-cent sales tax, does it weigh in on any of these projects at all?
See, and I would go back to, I think that should have been the case on some of this consent decree stuff versus $300 million in debt and all on the water bill. But
okay, right, I mean, that's
but
what
in
that
they don't really weigh in on it. So
what about other like general obligation bonds or other ways that municipalities, that is cities, try to pay for things?
Right. Well, I think that we could have done kind of like what we did when I was on council with Fund 103, which is something we created. So when I got on council, we were spending an abysmally low amount of money on our road maintenance.
Okay.
And in the
road maintenance, you mean just city or county?
Just city.
Okay.
Just city roads. And so we created Fund 103, and several years when we allowed the taxes to, not the tax rate to rise, but not go down so much, basically right up to the rollback. So any new revenue that was coming into the city from taxes, we would put in this road maintenance fund. And so I think
people complain about roads.
Yeah. Well, and that's the problem too. In the last 5-6 years, there's been no added investment to what we were spending when I left annually on road maintenance.
You mean the same amount as being
same dollar amount. And you've heard of inflation. So it's a lot less road.
And a lot more people?
A lot more people driving on them, and a lot less roads, just because, that same dollar doesn't buy the same dollar worth of asphalt it did when I was on council.
No, it doesn't. Okay.
So kind of how that is going with, you can do general revenue bonds, but you can also, that's something we just don't do, general obligation debt, historically.
Right. I mean, we've tried to avoid issuing bonds from the city of Tyler
that are called general obligation. Obviously, we've issued a lot of water bonds, right?
Yeah.
$300+ million worth of them.
What's the difference there? Then is it?
That's a great question. It is. So a water bond is tied just to water revenue,
Which means that if there was a default, the only thing that they could do was take over our public utilities and raise the price to pay for them.
Yep.
Right?
So only thing they can encumber is fees for water utilities.
All right. So that would leave, I mean, I hate to say it this way, but that would leave the people with the most or least discretionary income in the most precarious situation.
But we're kind of already dealing with that because
no, I know that's what I'm saying.
Put all that debt there, right? Like, yeah. So
right.
and that is the problem. And I've talked about this several times. And I know you're a property owner here, but we have this great thing that is our over 65 exemption, right? Where you can freeze your values at 65.
Can't wait to get to 65.
There you go. And the beauty of that is specifically what you're talking about, like people who are on a fixed income retirement, they don't have the ability or the wherewithal to go create another stream of income or anything other than what they have coming in at retirement. And that's what should have been looked at for this $300 million worth of bonds, putting it somewhere toward property taxes, having a vote like, hey, I know the fear of a vote when it's something that you have to do from the state. But I mean, the fear of the vote is like, hey, if we vote no, this is going to be on the water revenue. If we vote yes, then those that are vulnerable are protected because we have this over 65 freeze and it'd be in property taxes. Instead, since it's in the water bond, I mean, I've got several little ladies who showed me their bills in my old district in South Tyler, and they're taking one shower a week. They're washing their dishes once a week. They're washing their clothes once a week because their water bill's gone up 250%.
Yeah, I mean, I know that from a lot of my clients, many of which live in the north side of the town. They, basically suggest a doubling of their water bill. And I've had Don Warren on the show, and he says, yes, they are high, and everybody agrees on one thing: the water bills are high, right?
Yeah. But there are other issues other than just the consent decree debt in there, though. There have been things like there's been fees added in there. Some of those fees I don't believe should be on the water bill.
Why do you think the city is doing that? Or is it the water department? They're not able to do that on their own, are they?
Well, yes and no. I mean, the city's just using the water department as the billing entity. I mean, the easiest way for me to explain it is it's literally taxation through fees.
Right.
I mean, it's one of those deals. Now, I believe fees should correlate to expenses and should correlate to expenses that the person who's paying the fee is using.
Right. You're saying it should be a 1-for-1. You should.
Yeah.
Like if we owe something and it's a separate fee, then we should collect the amount of fee that covers that, but not get more.
Correct.
From that fee.
Correct.
Okay.
And that is not happening on the water bill. Completely. I mean, there are some that are, like your water rates, but I think that the other thing that, and I know I've pointed this out a bunch, but our current water rate is wild. It's a declining water rate. So the more you use, the less you pay per gallon, basically. Well, nobody does that anymore, and mainly because of water conservation.
Right. But I mean, why would that be the case for the city of Tyler?
Because it's just the way it's been.
But I mean, like, how would that even be politically helpful to anybody or be any incentive for them to continue that?
There shouldn't be.
I mean, right?
I mean, I've been campaigning against it for a year.
I mean, we try to encourage less water usage, right? I mean,
and the reality is that needs to be flat at least. And if you go out like Southern Utilities, theirs accelerates, right? Because I mean,
hell yes.
If you're right, if you've had the joy of paying that somewhere,
I've lived in a neighborhood, Baker Plantation, Southern Utilities.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that sucker will get you.
Right. And sometimes it'll get you in a month that you didn't feel like you really used any more water.
Yep. And so our fee structure has to be changed because I believe it's inordinately affecting those with low means and fixed incomes. Because, I mean, it is one of those deals where you've already got your base minimum billing, but then you've got this declining water rate. So the people who have the highest demand and have the highest usage
usually have more money.
They have more money, but they're also putting more demand on the system. So
Right,
when they're
But if
shifting
they
that
do,
load,
they should pay more
absolutely. And it's one of those deals that load is being shifted
to
to
older
those
people.
who are minimum users. And it is one of those deals. I literally had a couple ladies bring me their bills the other day, and one used quite a bit in percentage terms, more water than the others. But because of our declining rate, her bill was a little bit less than the other ladies. And this other lady was one of the ones that I was like, I'm down to one shower a week and one dishwasher. So
It's
one
not
of those
funny.
deals.
I mean, it's really,
No, it's sad.
we've gotten to this point, and I mean, I think the people who are interested and hope for any type of change or relief would have to look to the mayor's race as at least one way,
Right,
for there to be someone who advocated for a different way to accumulate debt going forward or pay for things.
right. Pay for things. And that's been the basis. I mean, that's why I'm here is these fees. Cause it's not just happening in the water billing. I mean, they have raised every fee. They are feeing little leagues out of existence right now.
Yeah.
And it is one of those deals where
I took a team to the World Series
that's awesome.
at Golden Road. So
Oh, that's cool.
but they've never done anything to fix up Golden Road.
No. And I think that is
Come on,
I
guys.
think
I
I
mean,
did see that on a
How
schedule
about a Golden Road
recently.
update?
Yeah, a Golden Road update does need to happen. But it is one of those deals where like all those fee structures need to be reviewed. Fees that are not going to actual expenses need to go away.
It's
And those revenues need to be paid somewhere else. If it's something we have to have, one of my biggest deals is if the city needs more money, they can come to the citizens and explain it.
Right.
Instead of just popping a fee over here, popping a fee over there. And my issue with that is when it's not correlating to an expense, is it creates this mode of revenue and operation. And the problem that the city has right now is I don't think the city can come to us and say, listen, we have looked at everything and we are pinching every penny and dime here.
You don't think that they've looked at everything? Is that what you're saying?
I don't think they have.
And also there's a political calculus, intended or not, in that, when you try not to raise taxes, you try to, maybe spread things as fees.
Yep.
And the property tax rate in Tyler has generally been suggested to be kind of low.
We're the lowest in the state for cities over 50,000 people, not 15.
Well, people need to let that sink in because that's a fact, right? It's not you and I saying, hey,
No.
It is low.
Yeah, it's low.
People here, by and large, everybody wants low taxes.
Amen.
Right? I mean, but
that does affect what you get from your city, right?
right. I mean, there's a direct correlation between services,
That's
right, and money. And if you add into it, Tyler is a fast growing place.
Yep.
And adding all these people quickly to the infrastructure, which is roads, sewer, water, then, it can't be Christmas for everybody forever, can it?
No, it cannot.
I mean,
And there's a lot of things that we have to look at like that. And I think that that's really what I'm going to bring to the city, right? Like we're going to literally just do a business cost analysis, right? And go through every department. And we're going to make sure that, hey, if there's a private sector equivalent, like you're meeting that price point or you're beating it, to make sure that we're giving the citizens the best bang for the buck. I mean, really kind of recreating what LTOP did 30 years ago and just going through and making sure that all our processes are right. And then once we know we're pinching every penny and every dime and there still needs to be a revenue call, well, then that's an easy ask of the voters. And if they don't want to do it, we're going to be able to put out a simple menu. Like this is what this buys and that's what we're going to do with it.
Communicating the needs are tough because cynicism, rightly so over time, has crept into the equation where people
100%.
don't trust the numbers. They don't trust that we really need this. Most people in Tyler are very, philanthropic, right? I mean,
oh, absolutely.
And people would generally step up and do whatever was necessary, but I think sometimes the messaging is not as clear as it could be.
Yeah, and I think we not to disparage anybody, but I think we just saw that in the last bond that we had last
TJC?
week. Yeah.
Okay, I was going to bring that up.
Well, and I think you just made a great point. I want to correlate that to TISD school bonds. And so TISD did, 3 rounds of school bonds, right? Like they did, or maybe it was 4, but they did elementaries, then they did middles and junior, and then they did the high schools.
I mean, and there was a citywide strategy for what areas were improved that went into that thought process.
100%.
Right. I mean,
but this is the kudos to TISD, right? Like they did their elementary bond. They put out all the pictures. They said, this is what we want to raise. And then you know what they went and did with it? They did exactly what they said they were going to do. And the pictures matched the buildings. And that's where they spent it. And so the next time they came for a bond and they said, this is what we're going to do with it, they had a little less trouble getting through the voters. And then by the time they got to the high school, the big monster bond, it was kind of like, here's the, if you want to vote for it, that's fine. If you want to vote against it, that's fine. But the reality is the argument then, your cynicism you're talking about, which I completely agree with, is not there because they've just done 2 bonds over the last 10, 15 years, and they've done exactly what they said they were going to do with it. And so I think that when you cannot back that up and not clearly state what it is, I think you have trouble because of the cynicism with the voters. And I think,
right, because people will try things, and people have gotten cynical to the point where they say, this bond, they didn't really put a lot behind it. There wasn't a lot of enthusiasm or emphasis because maybe they just come back and cut the bond by $25 million and say, hey, we've looked at it and we've reduced it. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, right? I mean,
right. And so I don't know if you know this about state bond law, but there's this interesting thing I found out a couple of years ago. And I'm going to say, don't quote me on this percentage. This is fuzzy. Obviously, I'm saying it out loud. But
no, but I mean, there's a general
basically,
concept.
if you have $100 million bond, there is something in bond law at the state that allows you to increase that by 15 to 20% without going back to the voters. And that's
kind of a safety factor.
Yeah, it's inflation or something happened on a job, so you don't have to go back to do that. So the reality is voting on $100 million bond is you could be voting in a $120 million bond.
Yeah, I mean that's
not be asked about it.
I can see, I can see that there is the need for flexibility sometimes, as you say.
Absolutely,
interest rates could change. I mean, and you wouldn't want to act like it was something sinister. That happened because it was out of everybody's control.
Right. And that does happen. And you wouldn't want to, lose 2 to 3 years on a project, rebuilding a bond amendment and going back to the voters and risking that. So there's a purpose for it. But the reality is I also don't think that's something that's shared. And when that kind of stuff's not shared, back to your cynicism standpoint, like that makes me cynical.
Do you think that, that such low voter turnout rates feed the thought that we don't have to convince that many people? So the education doesn't have to be that thorough, because if we look and there's 10% that come out for the mayoral election, the bond, hey, it's 10% of the most, informed people in the city are coming out to vote.
Yep.
Right. And so it becomes kind of a popularity contest or a vote no on anything contest. Right. I mean,
100%.
And so I suspect TJC needs some updates.
I think they do. And I think TJC, honestly, if you go to their campus, I mean, I think they do a good job of wearing their stuff slap out, right? Like,
right.
they use their buildings and and I think that they make things go the extra mile.
It's a 12,000 student enrollment.
Yeah.
They're constantly involved in like job training related to industry and other businesses.
Huge impact to the region.
Right. I mean, so it's definitely one of those things that, sometimes people say, sometimes you have to spend money to make money.
Yeah.
You've heard that before.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's a concept in government that exists as well, don't you think, at least to some degree?
I've heard of the concept. Yeah. I mean, I've heard of that. I don't think it necessarily applies the way some people apply it, especially because, I mean, my view of...
Well, how about tax abatements as an example?
That's a great example of where people would say, spend money to make money and government.
Let's give Valencia downtown
$12
$12 million in tax abatements for 10 years or something like that, right? And we get half of those millions, though, in tax revenues that we would not otherwise have if they didn't choose to come here, right?
Yeah, I think one of my favorite ways to frame that, and this is just so that people know how I think about that, because that is a good point about how it's thought. But Nathaniel Moran has this great concept, and it's called the but for concept, right? Like, but for this, whatever we're doing, whether it's, free water for a year or whether it's we're running a sewer line to your property, but for this thing the city or the county or the state is going to do for this, there's no way it exists. Because I don't believe that if I believe that those kind of things like tax abatement and business incentives need to exist at some point, but I don't believe they need to be fair from a standpoint of, I don't think they're cookie cutter. And I think that if you're able to run and be successful and come here and you want to be here and this is where you want to, and you don't need it, I don't think that necessarily means you should get it. Right. Like, I think that,
from what I understand, like that Bass Pro Shop, they did not get offered incentives, did they?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, they didn't. There could be argued a little bit on the road that's being constructed out to Broadway right now,
Centennial Parkway or whatever that is. I know
it's now called Bass Pro Drive. I think it was Settlers Landing is what it was like.
Okay, but you agree that at least in concept and principle that the city really didn't incentivize Bass Pro Shop.
And if the city is going to do something, I always believe it should be in the city's lane, right? Like, obviously we don't have some huge pot of gold that is our economic development pot of gold that we can hand out, right?
We privatize that in Tyler, don't we?
We did.
And that's Texas Economic Development Council.
And that is a great group of local business leaders and organizations that work together to help incentivize businesses to come here and bring jobs. And Yellowwood is a great example.
I mean, that's a good example.
The Amazon warehouse.
Were there any tax incentives provided by, I guess it would be the county out there, wouldn't it?
The county, I know that the city has done some water line work and things like that. And that's kind of where I was going with, like, even the road.
The city ran a water line to John Soul's warehouse, right? And it cost the city $3 million.
Yep.
And that was the example I was thinking of when I said sometimes you have to spend money to make money, right?
Right.
Because John Souls will pay more than the city water rate for the water in the county area, correct?
Yep.
And anybody who attaches to that line from John Souls back to the city of Tyler will add revenue to the city's
100%.
water, right?
And that's why I think that's the kind of incentives we should be doing.
I mean, that sounds like a good idea.
It is. Well, it's one of those deals when a business comes to town and we can do a water line or we could do a sewer line or we can abate trash service for a period of time or something like that. That is low hanging fruit, low impact to our citizens, but at the same time, bringing in those businesses and incentivizing their growth and making our area more attractive, especially since we don't have, a city fund because, we talked a little bit about the half-cent sales tax, but 30 years ago when they did the half-cent sales tax vote, our community voted on how to use that. And the state charter says that you can either use that for business incentives or you can use it for infrastructure. And so that community voted and decided to use our half-cent sales tax for infrastructure. And so that's the reason it's not available for economic development. Some communities, trying to remember.
Longview, everybody but us basically
did
capitalizes an economic development arm of the city.
Through sales tax. Yeah.
Right. But we do it, we get like $1 million, it's very small, right?
Yeah.
So these guys over here work with a lot less, to try to do as much as they can, right?
Yes, they do. And I think that is, that's probably one of the reasons I get pushback on my desire to go through every department and make sure that we're, because we already are lean. People are like, we can't be any leaner. And I disagree with that.
Right.
But it is one of those.
are you and Stuart Haney, are y'all splitting hairs here? Because we have, by and large, a pretty good city government compared to most everything else in the state.
Compared to.
Yeah.
But I think that the problem is
Good can get better.
Well, I think the problem is our current council has spent years into the future. Like that downtown square, they've already spent almost 2 years of half-cent budget money just on the square project. So
okay, so you mean there'll be no more half-cent budget money?
Well, as construction budgets work, right? Like we may only spend $1 million this month, and next month we may only spend $500,000. So we might have $500,000 for another project that month. But they're spending, 34 without any extensions or change orders, $34 million on the square with the roads around it, the green space. And then
let's call that the 40 when it's all said
$4 million we're paying the architects and engineers. That gets up to 34. There will be change orders, so I fully expect that number to get bigger. Half-cent only brings in 20 to 21 million a year. So, and they're running that whole project through half-cent.
Okay. But you've given us some good numbers, John. You've said, 20 to 20 million a year, half-cent, right?
20 to 21. Yep.
We think the project is going to finish up downtown, probably, if any change orders, closer to 40 million.
I fully expect north of 36. Yeah.
Okay.
If it goes as is. Now, I believe there are savings to be found in the downtown project. I think the downtown project, it is going. We're going to finish it if I'm mayor. But
we have to finish it.
We have to.
There's no way we cannot finish it.
Absolutely. It would be foolish and insane to not, anyway.
It's going to look good,
We're
right?
not going to stop it. We're not going to do anything. I completely disagree with the narrowing of Broadway. Broadway needs to stay 4 lanes wide, mainly because, I would have been okay with the narrowing if they would have done mitigation of traffic, given alternate routes, like add a lane to Beckham or add a lane to Palace or something like that to help traffic move around downtown. They didn't. And so we can't just choke that off with no options. And a ton of people from North Tyler commute to South Tyler, and a ton of people from South Tyler drive through downtown North, through that pass.
They're going to have to hit Beckham and Palace.
And I don't know if you've been on Beckham and Palace at rush hour, but they're full already. They're at capacity.
Right. Let's get you on the record here. The downtown project, are you generally for it, or were you against it, or are you against it?
I am 100% for it. I am 100% against the way it has been executed. I was against the plans, the way they were drawn. There's multiple issues with the plans, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I think they're replacing stuff that doesn't need to replace. Subterranean, that thing can look exactly the same as it is in the surface pictures and be a lot less expensive.
What do you think the motivation is behind anything subterranean that you're talking
about? I heard the Dog and Pony Show 2 years ago.
Which is the people that benefit from the contracts?
Yes. And the Dog and Pony Show is this is going to be your legacy project. And if you're going to do a legacy project, we would normally build this to last 30 to 50 years. But we need to build this to last 80 to 90 years because it's a legacy project. And that's the sales pitch. And I'm like, not sold. And so,
so if you had been in charge at the time, you would have taken a cheaper option, is essentially what you're telling us.
Well, value engineering, man. Go in there, the things that don't need to be replaced. There's multiple parts of the infrastructure on the square. Not all of it. The stuff on College Street needed to be replaced. The pipes underneath the roads, they were real old. But take Ferguson, take Irwin. Those pipes are less than 30 years old. And that's a newborn baby in infrastructure world. That's still a spring chicken. And so those kind of things. And then even the road cross sections. The road cross sections is basically the recipe to build a road from the base dirt all the way up to the surface you drive on.
Fill to what?
Yeah, fill. You've got stabilized subsurface. You've got your mid layer. Anyway, and every inch and every added thing you engineer in there
is money.
And not a little money, right? It's a lot of money. And so we've got these road cross sections down there that are just ludicrous for what is the traffic is down there and for what we need down there. And so I don't just firmly believe, like, I know, because this is my world too, right? These things could have been adjusted. And
Or is that just ego? Is it just
I don't know.
nostalgia for, a project that seems to be, I support downtown Tyler. I mean, what is it that you think causes people to not take a little bit more efficient options if they exist?
I don't know the full answer to that. I know that they ran this through Half Cent, which I've mentioned. I'm on Half Cent. So, I mean,
You've seen it.
I asked these questions and got, shushed. And so I essentially ended up
Tyler
being,
likes a consensus.
yeah, I'm the only person who voted no on this anywhere in the process.
Well,
And I've got a target on my back because of it. And I know that. But I mean,
it shouldn't be, right? I mean, honestly, politics is to me is just because you can't even talk about good ideas without people saying, "Well, you're against me.
Yeah.
You're not supporting.
You're just
me.
not for the plan.
You're not
right?
for anything."
Yeah,
right?
you're not.
I mean,
Yeah, and so now I'm being cast as this anti-downtown, anti-growth guy. Well, I'm a developer. If this town doesn't grow, I have no work.
Yeah.
Like, my income stops. I don't have any other income other than this town growing. But then even the downtown, I'm very much for the downtown. But another example downtown is, like, I love our brick streets. I think they're part of our heritage. Like, those need to be preserved and
everywhere.
saved. Not everywhere. We've got 13 miles of brick streets, and you can drive through some neighborhoods where I believe those neighborhoods could have a lot nicer and more maintained streets. Now, not our historical neighborhoods is not what I'm talking
Right.
about.
I mean, you're going to get an email from Tyler Historical Society.
No, I'm for the brick streets. Always have been. I think that during Barbara Bass's tenure, we did a brick street study, and it was vetted by the Historical Society and everybody, and it was a great study. And it was literally like, at all costs, we protect these streets. And these other streets, as they need to be redone, they can be asphalted over. And I think that study was good and still works. But
are they following that now?
No.
Why not?
I don't know.
Okay. So
to the brick street standpoint, though, like, one of the points I'm getting crucified on is the city, during part of the consent decree, an add-on, spent $1.4 million to salvage bricks off of Elm Street before the consent decree guys went through, to salvage antique bricks. And then on the square, they ripped up all those bricks to salvage the antique bricks, saran wrapped them, put them in pretty pallets, haul them off so that they can be preserved and we can use antique bricks in the future. And that is fine in concept, except for how much was spent on it when the county in their project with the brick streets they're redoing, they're using a modern brick street brick that looks exactly like our antique bricks.
Right. I mean, there's some new bricks.
Yeah.
A lot of new bricks.
Some of it's being new, and they're using some new in the new project. But the reality is that has exacerbated the length of this project, and especially the businesses that are suffering down there because of this protect these bricks at all costs.
I mean, do you think it exacerbated it that much by just removing
I think
bricks?
it cost well over a month to 2 months extra on the project. That as is right now. Like, that's not, and we're like, they've just done the little college section and the little section on Irwin, right? We're not even halfway through.
Do you think sometimes, though, and you probably know this being on the council as a politician, that, accommodations have to be made in order to gain support, get things passed, and sometimes that makes things less efficient and costs some money?
I do. The problem is what accommodations were made.
There were
no accommodations made.
I know you're going to be against us if we don't preserve some of these bricks.
Yeah, except for I can see that. I definitely don't see that on the Elm Street project. I think the push, and this would be my push, is to preserve the fact that we have brick streets and make sure they're as original as possible. Yet when it's going to cost us 3 times as much to salvage an antique brick, and those antique bricks are so slick, man.
Yeah,
They're
they are
just worn
slick.
down, and when they get wet, the nice thing about the new bricks is they're not slick,
Right.
and it's not a hazard. So there's positives.
Well,
there,
John, I
but-
don't mind the slick roads.
I don't. You don't. I don't make money off
I'm
of
just
it.
kidding.
Whatever.
But I don't know if they deteriorate over time or whether they'll be around forever if they preserve them. I don't know if that's an issue.
I don't either from that standpoint, but I would say that I just wish that, when you're talking about allowances being made and considerations and things like that, like I fully believe that's the reality, right? That needs to be done. But I think when that's not done, considering everybody, that's when people feel stilted and feel like, hey, you're considering the antique brick more than the ability for me to get customers in my door.
Well, yeah, right. Well, and that whole issue down there, ultimately, I think it'll be a net positive economically for the city.
It will, 100%.
Okay.
And it's once again, and I know you've done investments and stuff like that. Your biggest win in any investment is your purchase price, right? Like that can dictate success of an investment. That can, like when you're building an
unless
investment
there's also a dominant priority, such as a luxury hotel in downtown Tyler, right? Like something like that.
Well, and I'm not even saying that is an overspend. I have no clue. I haven't looked at any of the hotel stuff. I have looked at the road stuff. And when you're saying we can have the same thing minus the 2 lanes versus 4 lanes on Broadway, we can have the same thing for $10 million less if we would value engineer this. Why don't we?
Do you think it would be that much of a savings? Or are you just using that as an example?
I'm using that as an example.
Okay.
I don't personally think it'd be far off from that, but that is just an example.
All right. The hotel, the city, the downtown area, when it all gets done, we pretty much agreed it's going to make money for the city, right?
Anything like that
Tourism,
is a net positive. Absolutely.
All of this stuff's going to help. Now, there are some businesses that are having to take the pain.
Very much so.
Right. Do you think the city has made commercials? I've seen signs hanging down there.
That was all reactive. That's my problem with it.
Okay, you're saying, when you say reactive, what you mean is that nothing was done before the pain started?
Correct.
And then it was in response to the outcry of pain?
Correct.
That something was done?
Very obviously.
Okay, and you say very obviously. I don't really know, honestly, other than just trying to keep up,
Obviously, I've been watching it.
Okay.
So that's good correction. When I say very obviously, it's not very obviously, but that is what happened.
Politicians look for critics because, right? They could be supporters.
Yes,
Chef Lance down there's been very vocal.
Very vocal.
And I've never met him, and it looks like he's
a fantastic cook. You should go
by the restaurant.
It's amazing.
I've been in there once, but we hadn't heard much out of Rick's, or, we hadn't heard much out of Prime 102. It looks
Prime 102 has an entrance that's not under construction.
Yeah, I did a show with Steve on this show.
Yeah.
And we broadcast that there was a back parking lot you could slip into.
Exactly. You can stay away from the construction there. You can't at Lance's. Yeah. And Rick's has been, I have talked to Rick's. They've definitely seen an easy 30% revenue hit. Calalinth Photography put on her website, she's seen a 30% revenue hit. Which is funny because she herself says, like, why am I seeing a revenue?
But
it is. I think it's just people being willing to book and come downtown to the studio, period. And I think that is the unknown impact on these businesses. It's not even necessarily the people who are already there not frequenting those businesses. It's people hearing about the construction, seeing pictures and being like, I'm not going to deal with that mess, and not coming downtown. And so
it's coming, though, to the other side. Don Juan's and all those are going to have to deal with it as well.
Yes, it is headed their direction. And I think that at some point, like that is where the things that need to be changed on this project. And this is really, can I get in there and make it less expensive and change some of the processes? I don't know the answer to that, because the processes that need to be changed are things like, what should be happening is things that are going to impact, like take Culture, Lance's restaurant, right? And about to be Rick's, where they're tearing it down to the face. There's no way to get in the building. When they're doing that, like that needs to be an around the clock process, right? Like they don't need to be stopping at 5 and not working on Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, I mean,
Right. At some point, like it is one of those deals like, hey, we have removed your ability to conduct business completely.
I mean, they'll have some plywood or something surely to get in there, won't they? I mean, I don't know.
No, Lance's, I mean, it was gone for a couple days completely.
Okay.
And
what can the mayor do? Let's say right now, you or Stuart Heaney get elected. Is there anything that y'all can do to even affect this project going forward? Or is this just something we can look back, complain about, say it could have been done better or whatever?
I would say historical precedent says there is stuff that can get in there and do. But I mean, a lot of the mistakes made with this project were done in the planning and in the contract phase.
Right. I'm saying they're hard to change.
Well, they're hard to change, but I think you can look forward even in the contract and what's going to be done and try to address things that are coming. One of my favorite examples, I was about to say favorite thing. It's not the favorite thing. Favorite examples is there was no temporary street lighting in the contract considered in this huge plan with 298 pages. And so when the contractor came down there and tore everything out with all the streetlights, when it got dark down there was no, like, you couldn't see to walk down the sidewalk. Well, and a lot of the buildings had to add lights, and then, then they did temporary lights and stuff, but it was that was a change order because it wasn't contemplated in the thing. And that's the kind of things
But that cost was going to be there regardless, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, like, even if it wasn't in the bid, if it was.
But once again, it shouldn't have been reactionary. This stuff should be planned for.
But these plans, though, I'm assuming they're not drawn by the city. They're drawn by an outside contractor.
They're drawn by the engineers and the architects. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, the city, But
it is the council's job to ask those questions, to make sure that the value engineering that can be done is done, that the businesses that can be contemplated, that to make sure that their ease of continuing business is done. None of that was done.
Or they decided that, there's really not much we can do if we're going to do this project.
And maybe that's the case, but I think that, and maybe that's why the business owners, for the most part, feel like they weren't communicated with, possibly, but I don't think that's an adequate answer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, if you're going to do this project and it gets set in motion, there's going to be some casualties, at least in the short run, right?
Yeah. But I mean, I spent a stint in commercial construction, and when we do that, I mean, the businesses we're working on, they have to stay open. And I mean, we make amazing allowances to make sure that business is not impeded. Like, that is not an uncommon thing in my world. And when it's not allowed for in planning at all, like, that's concerning.
Your opponent in the runoff seems to, if I kind of just get a feel for the campaign messaging, it seems to be kind of continue the momentum, further, stronger, something like that, right? How would you contrast the message that you've tried to get across as to what your campaign represents?
Yeah. Well, first, I don't think we can afford to continue the current spending momentum.
For the reasons that you've cited?
Yeah, I think that continuing that is crazy. Like, I think the contrast really is just bringing in common sense and practical, like, review questions and sense on these things. Like, it doesn't mean we don't do projects, but it means we do them as efficiently as possible. Like, the current momentum that they want to keep going is why we are where we are. Like, we have to have a change. Like, we can't be spending these budgets years into the future, and at the same time, we've put this $300 million of consent decree debt on our water bills and not looked for relief solutions anywhere else, right? Like, you can't, I mean, they're having their cake and they're eating it too with the taxpayer dollars. And that's my problem. And I have already lowest tax rate in the state. Like, it's a lean, there's not much meat on the bone anyway. But this current spending track that my opponent wants to continue is untenable. And we have to change that. Like, we have to correct the course and how we're doing that and how we're budgeting and how we're planning. We've got to quit this reactionary stuff. Reactionary stuff is so expensive.
I mean, let's say you come in realistically. I mean, are you halting projects that are on the books that are going forward? Or
No.
is it simply, are you looking at different ways to pay for things, or what are you doing specifically, John?
Specifically, well, I'd say the only thing that I want to truly affect, other than, find cost savings in the plan, and the downtown project specifically, is the narrowing of Broadway. Like I want that to go away. But as far as, we can't stop the downtown project. Like I don't want to stop the downtown project. That's ludicrous. That doesn't help anybody or serve anybody. And any project that we have currently going, we're not stopping. Like we're going to review what we can. If there's changes that can be made, just common sense changes to create efficiencies, we're going to do it. And I am going to look at everything in that. But anything that hasn't started is going to get reviewed. Like I don't like that. One of the things that happened on the square, that kind of broke the camel's back, as it were, where one of the questions I asked is, on the square, their streets are 24-foot curb to curb. City minimum for fire code is 26. And so in one of the half-cent meetings, I was like, okay, did y'all give yourselves a variance for this? Because you wouldn't let me build a 24-foot wide road. And the answer I got from the private project engineer, the paid guy, and then the city engineer and the traffic is like, we talked about it and it's okay. Like that's in a public meeting. Like talked about it and it's okay.
I guess you could call that a variance.
I guess.
Right?
Like I can't do that.
But there are some things that for the city, maybe there can be when you're building
it's
something
that wide so a fire truck and ambulance can get through the street.
Yeah.
Like you're making a variance for a fire truck access?
Well,
anyway.
You bring, I guess what you're saying is, and I hear you, you're saying, look, my experience as a builder and a developer make me differently qualified than the people that have been looking at budgets as the mayor for the last several terms.
Very obviously, in my opinion, yes.
And that's nothing against anybody, but it has to do with if someone asked me to do a job and it involved looking at contracts and examining the legal implications, I might do a better job than maybe someone else who didn't have a legal background.
Correct.
And they may be a better person than me, but I may be better at looking at the contracts.
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
That is what I'm saying. And that would be a concerning thing about my opponent, because I feel like these contracts aren't being looked at, and he is in your field.
Well, I'm a personal injury lawyer.
But I think it is one of those deals. Like I would say that should be an asset, but I would say that, once again, no temporary lighting on a downtown project in 24-foot swap.
You're going to kill them with a small technicality?
No, the problem is the small technicality is indicative of a much bigger problem. Like that's happening everywhere, right? Like I don't know if you heard about the city's agreement with the county.
Well, I know they coordinate together, which is good for us, I would think.
Any coordination with the county or anything in the area is good. But specifically around the square. So the city doesn't own the green space, right?
That's the
county
property.
owns that. And so, but the city's agreement with the county is wild. It is.
How wild, John?
Indemnification. And indemnification would mean that the city's going to take responsibility for the green spaces on the square. And, this is probably something it's questionable to say as maybe being in office.
Well,
but
I don't know what you're about to say.
If you fall and want to sue the city and the county because it's county property, the city's indemnifying the county from claims.
But, just to come to their defense, I think if this falls under recreational use or whatever downtown, the laws are written such that it would have to be almost, intentional.
100%. Yeah,
So
it would have had to been.
It's a low
bar.
It's a low thing to happen.
It is one of those deals where then the city has responsibility for construction, ongoing maintenance, policing, mowing.
But they're policing anyway, right?
We are policing.
They're down there. It's a little county, island.
But they're taking over the other one too as part of the agreement. The one where the courthouse currently stands. But anyway, that's not your biggest issue. And no, it's not even remotely my biggest issue. This is just to point out. But if they have festivals or anything down there, so the county's spending nothing, has been indemnified from anything. City runs everything. City has all the expenses. If there's a festival or say Red Dirt or something like that, and it produces income, the county gets 60% of that. and
Well, I mean, I
gets
guess
40.
it's almost like a promoter or venue fee.
I guess
Right.
I would say, except for the city's supposed to do the promotion too. But here's what I would say: that was a great deal for the county.
The county just doesn't have revenue sources.
I can't believe that the city would sign off on that agreement. I think that I think the revenue share part with everything the city was taking on just didn't need to be in there. Anyway, it's just that
sometimes, political relationships form in order to get things done.
Absolutely.
Right?
I'm not saying that.
All right. Now, you are not, at least from support standpoint, a complete outsider, right? You've recently gotten the endorsement of Nathaniel Moran.
Correct.
I mean, I saw that's been how long ago?
3 weeks.
All right. And that, I guess that endorsement, I don't know if you sought it, if Grassroots of America helped you get it, because I know they support you as well.
They were one of my original, first 5 endorsers. Yeah, way back when.
Okay.
When
That's
I
what
announced.
So when you announced, I guess you have gotten the endorsements thus far of Grassroots, Nathaniel Moran, and who else involved that you would
There's
want to
a
highlight?
handful of people. I mean, with the now that we're in the runoff, I've gained the support of Kevin Eltife, and we're kind of working through those lists and making sure that that we have support there. But I mean, Jay Ferguson, I'm thinking the Gene Scholl, Ed Snodgrass, people who are involved in the city. So we had several handfuls of supporters when we started, but the reality was, it's definitely not something like Nathaniel's endorsement was offered, and so, which is a great honor.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good person.
I respect him.
He lived in my neighborhood. I know him very well.
Yeah. And he is a friend, and I've followed his career and supported him along the way, and he has mine as well. And so, but in that, our whole campaign was always about our platform and not about the typical Tyler campaign of endorsements.
Right, you're right.
And
you're right.
So that has been the focus all along: fixing our roads, fixing our water bills, making sure that deals the city's doing are transparent to the citizens. That's what we built the whole campaign on all the way through, not endorsements.
You're saying this, okay? For someone who was born and raised in Tyler, lived here my whole life.
Yes.
You were saying that this campaign, in your mind, is an issue-based campaign
100%.
versus a popularity contest.
100%.
Right? And in Tyler, in the past, you get enough people that sign off on your fundraising material, you drag a lot with you, right?
Absolutely.
Are you saying that you've not benefited from that in your mayor race?
I would say that I've felt, especially until Kevin and Nathaniel came on board.
Is Kevin on board? I mean, can you say that? Kevin Eltife?
He said I could say he supports me.
Somebody called him Kevin. John Nix is saying that you're on his team. Are you?
Yeah.
I mean,
he said I could say that.
Okay. And he's a thoughtful businessman for sure.
Well, and he's been a long-time mentor. I mean, he has been a mentor since I was on P&Z, where I would ask questions about, how we would do things and how the city should run. And when I was a council person, he was too. And I think the way he views specifically municipal government,
similar to you,
is right in line with me.
Right.
And he would say the same thing. And so, because he has, he did when we talked this week. But
all right, let's go. Let's face this, because this is unfiltered, and I'm curious. People tag people nowadays in local political elections like, oh, he's with Grassroots, or he's not. Do you hear that?
I do, and here's what I would say to that. I'm not a member of Grassroots. I'm not a member of Smith County Republican Club. I'm not a member of any of the parties here. But I've heard people be like, "Oh, well, I'm against you because that person," or I'm against you because Nathaniel endorsed you. I've gotten that 10 times this week, and we're against you because Grassroots endorsed you. Here's the deal. Back to this is an issue-based campaign.
You're trying to put together a strange coalition, aren't you? I
think it speaks to what we're going for is good government.
Right.
And if the people are endorsing me because they want good government, I get that, people are saying, well, those two things are not the same. You can't have this person over here endorse you and that person endorse you. But the reality is that's not about their specific views on everything. It's about their views of local government, and they want efficient and good local government. And that's what we're going to bring.
Yeah, I can see that. And I understand that. But, like some of the people that frequent, say, culture probably were dissatisfied with your endorsement from Nathaniel Moran.
Yeah. Well,
Right?
here's what I would say. I mean, you can call Lance and talk to him about me. Lance and I are friends and acquaintances.
But you're not politically aligned.
Politically aligned is not even remotely that. We are on opposite sides of the planet. We have similar views on some stuff and extremely different views on quite a few things. I would say, there's been several things I've done that he's been really mad about. And
I'm sure the library thing was one of them.
He was mad about that. And I think
that's another lightning rod for some reason.
Yeah.
You just hear people just say,
I know.
Oh, so-and-so's trying to ban books. Okay.
Right.
So tell us the origin of how you even learned. I wouldn't know a book in that library if I have no idea. Right.
Well, so this is kind of a multifaceted thing, how we got here. But so my daughter she reads 20 to 30 books a week. She has been in that library since she was 3 years old, every week.
Because there's only 900 and something library cards, I think, issued or something. There's not a whole lot of them.
I didn't even know there was a cap.
No, there's not a cap.
Oh,
I mean,
just saying
only in relation to the number of
my
people.
daughter is a
She's
card
one of
carrying.
them.
Well, and my wife has been on the Friends of the Library board. She's the one that actually instituted their governance and got them with East Texas Communities Foundations. Like, we not only go to the library all the time, like we've been a part of just securing it as far as just making sure that its foundation can last into the future, things like that. So we love the library.
It's not funded by the city?
No, it is funded by the city, but they have a foundation that also gives them grants.
Okay.
And it's a foundation that was funded by a donor a long time ago, and that was one of those deals that was, anyway.
They can get upgrades, they can get
it's
books.
in the weeds.
and stuff.
It's usually used for books and added programs or something like that. But
the long and short of this,
what happened
is a book.
it's a bunch of books.
Okay.
And so what had happened was last September, so I've been running since last May, last April, last May. And in last September, a lady came to me and said, hey, these books are in the library. I've been telling the city council about it for over 3 years and nobody's doing anything about it. And I was like, and it was a real.
Aren't you thinking like, I really don't want to get involved in this or not?
100%.
Are you like, yeah, let me have them?
No, it was, I really don't want to be involved in this. But then she started giving me excerpts from the books. And I started asking for clarification and just being like, so where are these? And because I'm not a book banner, I mentioned both my parents were public school teachers. Like I was raised like what is written.
Right. I mean,
is
school
written,
teachers and librarians are generally more open-minded than Sunday school teachers about what people can read.
Right.
Right. I mean,
and so
in general.
it's definitely not about what people can read because I have zero opinions about that. And I don't care what you let your children read. That matters nothing to me. I don't believe in coming into your house. I don't believe in censoring books. I don't believe in banning books. What was happening there is there were books that had been found and they were extremely explicit. And when I say extremely explicit, I mean graphic details of bestiality, rape of minors. This is not about sexual orientation or identity either.
Okay. So
like,
it wasn't discriminatory against anybody.
No, not discriminatory against anybody. And on top of that, what this lady who came to me had been asking is not remove anything, just move them to a section that is not free access for children under the age of 18.
Okay. So this is the young adult section?
This is the young adult section, which, when I got in there, was 13 to 26.
Those are young adults.
I was like, so what a 26-year-old can read as far as, without any,
Okay, you thought the age gap was too wide.
Well, it's a teen section. Like it should be 17 to 13, right? Like 18 and up is adult. Like it's one of those. And in the teen section, there's a checkout kiosk. I mean, these books are on the same shelves with Harry Potter. And my daughter will mow down a freaking library shelf and open every book over the course of an hour and a half or so on whatever shelf she's on to see which one she wants to take home.
But don't they have these restrictions, protections in place where, the parent determines what on the library card they can check out?
Yeah, something that was never advertised and only came out as something that was there. Like my wife
heard later.
My wife didn't know about it. And we've been down there all the time. So it's one of those deals.
Maybe she wasn't monitoring your children.
It was like, yeah, well, my wife has always been there with her, right? Like it's one of those deals. And that's the problem. And I was told by council people at the time, well, kids aren't supposed to be in the library unmonitored. Well, when Caldwell lets out all the kids whose parents cannot afford aftercare, but their parents can't pick them up till 5:00, you stand there at 3 to 3:30 any weekday during school, and 100 to 150 kids will walk in that library from Caldwell.
I mean, they're sick of reading. They just got out of class. They're not going to be checking out any books, are they, John?
Whatever. But completely unmonitored. In all seriousness,
it's too explicit. You brought it to somebody's attention. What was the response?
We're not messing with that, and we're not going to mess with that.
Okay, so you're not running for mayor yet, or are you?
No, I had already been running for mayor for like 6 or 7 months.
Okay, so are you being encouraged by anybody other than your wife to pursue this issue?
So
grassroots?
No.
Somebody like that?
No.
I mean,
no input. No input. Now, I believe the lady who originally brought it to me was a member of grassroots, but she didn't come to me as a member of grassroots. She was a former library board member. And later, I believe she was a grassroots member. But grassroots had zero input, and they didn't even know I was checking out the books or anything. And the check out in the books, what that came from is when my opponent went down and yelled at the librarian and made that whole scene. In the days after that, my wife and I were talking, and I was kind of like, if he says he really wants to make change and affect something at the library and do something, what he should do is go down there and check out the library books.
And he went down there to check them out, I guess.
I don't know. But my wife and I were sitting there, and it was just like, oh my gosh, we should just go check out the library books.
So y'all went and checked them out.
We went and checked out the library books.
Okay. And are you saying that Councilman Haney went down there and checked out the books, or went down there?
No, he went down there and yelled at the library, and I think about a sign or something. And a couple days later, we went down and checked out the books.
Okay. And there's currently a federal lawsuit right now.
Yes.
Against, him.
Yep.
City of Tyler.
Yes.
Grassroots.
Yes.
And a woman named Franklin. I don't know.
She's an assistant city manager.
Okay. Anyway, it's related to the woman who something happened to her in her employment, right?
That outburst and then her employment. And here's what I will say.
Do you know what the outburst was about?
Well, in the documents filed at court, it said that Councilman Haney went down there and said that here he had been protecting the library staff for years, and now they'll do this to me. And yelling at her. So I wasn't there.
Right.
All I have is what I read in the paper. So
I'm going to have him on. We're going to ask him about this.
Yeah.
But, the sign that brought all of this to a head said, "A truly great library has something in it to offend everyone," which
is a famous literary quote. I mean, I've seen it before.
I was going to say that. I was going to say that would not ever cause me to immediately look at the library as if, that there was something nefarious going on down there.
Right. I think from what I understand and I observed during this time where there was some social media outrage and Councilman Haney went down there, is that outrage was felt in light of the concerns about the books not being addressed. And so I think that when that sign is a famous quote, like I've read it before, seen it before, never thought anything nefarious of it, and agree with it, right? Like, I mean, once again, I don't believe in banning or censoring books. I believe that children, and especially the public, should not be providing access to pornography or sexually explicit things that can damage a child. I was exposed to pornography as a young child, and it affected me
I'm Playboy in the
for
Woods.
a long time. Right. And it's
I mean,
not,
right? I mean, like, hey, there's a Playboy in the Woods.
It's not something that, I mean, and there's many times
we've got the internet now.
Right.
I mean, I guess people are less excited about this issue because they look at the other sources of something so much worse.
The difference is the city's not providing you the internet, right? Like the city's not putting those things on the internet for you to view. They are putting these books on the shelves that are not monitored for kids. And once again, like if you as a parent, and I've talked to multiple parents that are literally going to go check these books out when I put them in the back in the adult section for their kids to read. And that is great. Like I have zero opinion about that. The Caldwell kids that are there and their parents have no clue that they're, and a lot of those kids, they probably don't even have a library card. Would you say there's controls?
I mean, that's
on
what
the
I've been told in the interview.
Right. When they've been, those controls that they've been,
your issue is just simply appropriateness for age. If we put
appropriate shelving is a great way to put it. Okay. Like they need to be on the appropriate shelf.
Because the librarians can't possibly read all the books when they come in, know what all's in them.
These books are rated when they get them. And that's the problem. And I think that we've even got some examples. And on my website, by the way, Nix for Mayor or Thrive Tyler, there is a library page where we have downloaded all the PDFs of what these books are, the excerpts. We've downloaded all the emails to city council, all the meetings that citizens had with Councilman Haney.
Your point
4 years ago.
Not responsive?
Right. Well, not responsive to this and not in dealing with this issue where they're still making these books available
you're saying they're still there.
No, well, not the books I have. I think they have.
You've got them.
Replaced some of the books from what I've heard. And we don't have a library card anymore because we checked out the books and didn't bring them back. They froze our library card.
Oh.
But
that's one way to keep the kids from seeing them.
I was like, okay. But the books are coming back. Every one of the books is coming back, and they're going just on the appropriate shelf. And it is one of those deals where I do not think that's a lot to ask. And I don't think that we as a city should be, go back to your Playboy in the Woods comment. Like, the city doesn't need to be doing that and then putting a sign out on the road like, hey, by the way,
there's a Playboy in the
Woods, right? And that is my feeling.
I like humor, okay? Right. I think people don't laugh enough about even things that are funny that they don't completely agree about, right?
But that is, in my opinion, the issue.
Okay.
Right? Like, in my opinion, that is the issue. And so they just need to be appropriately shelved. I've been called everything on the internet for this deal. and I get it. And I get where that could be misconstrued and stuff, but that is my intent. And
one of the reasons I had you on the show and wanted to have both of you is because I'm so tired of people labeling everybody. If I say one thing about like, oh, I don't want to wear a mask, or somebody throws me in a basket immediately.
Oh yeah.
Right. And I've said, no, I don't, I want to explain myself. And then there's nowhere to explain yourself. Right. So I'm sure you've dealt with that.
I'll tell you a good one I heard.
I'm sure Haney has dealt with it as well.
You'll like this one. So back to the, everybody's saying that grassroots has, they have been, an endorser but they've not been involved in any of our campaign meetings. They're not involved in our campaign at all. I think they did a call for volunteers during polling. But I heard the other day that I'm bought and paid for by grassroots, which is funny. But then somebody took it to another level, and they said that I do whatever Trump calls me and tells me to do in the city of Tyler. And
have you gotten a call?
Well, right now, which is, and that's just kind of the level this is going to, right?
Well, here's what
that was gospel truth on the internet, right? Like John Nix is doing what Trump tells you to, and I'm like, I've never even been in the same room with the man.
Locally, I would think they would say John Nix does anything Joanne Fleming says, dude. That's what I've kind of heard. Not necessarily about you, but just about any candidate
that they endorse.
That they endorse. Right?
Well, I think you can look through my council history, and Joanne and I had many very public disagreements. And And we've had many disagreements after that.
Well, I'm sure
even.
I agree with her on some things,
Right.
right? I mean,
And
it's not
that's
like
the
I
deal.
can just take hey, I'm all the way against you or all the way for you.
Yeah.
That's another one of those things that aggravates me about politics. You're all in or you're all out.
Right.
On every issue.
But the reality is that here's the deal. Just like any group in this town that is concerned about our community, and regardless of their, affiliations or whatever, like, we're going to have those conversations, right? Like, Joanne and I do not agree on everything by a long shot.
And she brings with it, a lot of pressure, political power, if you will, to motivate people to vote. I mean, let's just say what she and the group is.
Yeah.
I mean, historically, right? That's what they've focused on budgets. They've identified people they thought were less than in that regard.
Yep.
And they've supported other people that said they would.
Right.
Okay.
But especially locally, yeah. And you can,
but I mean,
if you wanted
against
to talk
stewardship, I mean, I'm not against somebody making sure we're not wasting $1 million, right? I mean,
just being common sense about that stuff, or like, just asking questions.
But in government, you got to have a little bit of a safety factor because, politicians are not business people generally, right?
Generally.
And
this is a shame.
And deals have to be made in order to get people to support to get stuff done. I mean, there's kind of that little gray area, right? Yeah. I mean, that is what politics is.
Well, it's making things work, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that again, that's kind of where I am too, right? Like, it is making things work, but when I don't agree with the priorities you're making things work toward, that is what I want to fix, right?
All right. You mentioned your website. Your campaign is built around the word thrive, right? And we'll go through this quickly. And then I want to finish with, 5 questions that I wanted to ask you and then ask candidate Haney as well. Okay. They're not gotchas or anything, but they're just more general concepts. But we've talked a lot about transparent leadership. You've mentioned in your thrive. Let's just focus on, is there an example of a closed-door emergency meeting that you felt like should not have been that you were referencing?
Yes.
Okay. I mean,
they're going to go back to the library now. And so.
Okay. No, I wasn't trying to go there.
No. But that is the emergency meeting specifically I want to reference is there were board members on the library board that wanted to take action on this book deal. And what they did is, back to our volunteer board sign up, right? You fill out a thing at the
right. I want to be on planning and zoning.
And so what the city does is we take all those applications when you're on council. The councilmen take all those applications, go through them, discuss who they're going to put on what boards. Well, as a result of the library issue going on, a bunch of people who wanted to add strength to the people who wanted to take action on the library board submitted their application to be on the library board. And it was set for a council agenda. And then when all those people showed up to speak on it, they were told, we had an emergency meeting last week and we filled all these positions.
And you're not in them.
And you're not in them.
Okay.
And so that would be specific to the emergency meeting reference. And that's, you can look that up, right? That's public record.
I was just looking for an example because I'm not as aware of the ins and outs.
Really is the deal. And here's what I would say too. Kind of my thoughts there is things like the dog and pony show I referenced on the square that I heard 2 years ago. That was in a off-site city council workshop that they invited half-cent members to because they were going to run it through the half-cent budget. And that was not videoed or filmed or put out for people to see. I believe things like that. And that does happen sometimes, right? Anytime there's a legal issue or executive session, there are laws and there are reasons you do that is to protect the city.
But all these others, you don't have to do that.
Right.
I mean,
and like that dog and pony work session I'm talking about, like that should have been put out to the public, right? Because public has no clue. Like everybody thinks it's the first time they've ever heard about it when I say,
watch out, John.
On Broadway.
If you get elected, people are going to remember this conversation.
Yeah.
They're going to say, hey, John, you're trying to get something done. And you're not wanting to have it on TV. You're not wanting to video. It's like,
right.
You got to be careful what you wish for.
Absolutely. And those lines are literally like, so contracts, when the city sued, like those business deals that could put the city at a disadvantage from outside contract stuff, like that stuff still has to remain in executive session. Things like listening to a presentation from the engineers for why we should do the downtown project, like I would want the citizens to have access to that. Even if it's not the same thing, have them do a special presentation that's the same they gave the city that you do for TV so that we can produce. And if you weren't able to make it to the meeting, you can see it. So when I'm saying transparency, that is about those kinds of emergency meetings not happening. We've never had an emergency meeting to fill volunteer positions at the city before on our volunteer boards. There may have been a meeting in the past to fill a position on council or something. I don't know about that, but never for the library board.
All right. Definitely an outlier in your mind, something unusual. But on the helping citizens, let's just focus on the city staff will be trained to serve you with speed, respect, helpfulness, and care. Is there anything there that you've experienced or anybody you have talked to experience there that caused you to include that sentence?
Yeah. And here's a great thing about this whole platform. When my wife and I just made the decision to run and I started running, we said, so what happens if they fix this stuff while we're running? And we said, well, then we would have gotten something done while we're running and half of it will be done by the time we get there. So I'll say that specifically was at people's issues with water bills, not getting responsiveness, people having things like, I had an old lady call me and be like, I was out of town for 6 weeks and I got a $1,500 water bill for 4 weeks out of the 6 weeks I was gone. And I've had a plumber come. I've got no leaks or anything. And when I've called the city, there's like, you pay that bill or we're shutting off your water. And I've got countless stories like that.
Has that improved since your campaign?
That I do believe is improved. Not completely, but I know responsiveness from the city, specifically on water bills, has gotten better. I still think there's a lot of issues, but we're going to go to roads and sewers, but one of my
We've talked about that already.
Consistent deals was potholes. So when I was on council under Martin Hines was the mayor and I was on council, and we had, I already mentioned, we increased road maintenance funding so much. But one of the initiatives we had that happened pretty much the whole time I was on council was if you reported a pothole on the app or you called in to report a pothole, there was asphalt in that pothole within 24 to 48 hours. It did not matter. North, east, west, south.
I mean, that's tough.
In Tyler.
Right?
It is.
That's tough.
But if you stay on top of it, you can do it.
Because water and rain are the enemy of roads, right?
Absolutely.
And then if there's a cheaper aggregate that's chosen, then they might not last as long.
Even if a lot of times they don't. But the deal is we've got extensive pothole patches. But what they were doing is waiting until the big machine or the good machine could get there to fix it instead of, just throwing asphalt in there, tamping it down with a tamper, making it nice. Like that may be temporary, but it's still going to fill the pothole. But it's one of those deals where we had potholes that we had, marked and watched that hadn't been filled for 6, 7, 8 months. One of my favorites is down in South Tyler. It's had a street sandwich sign over it, said City of Tyler Streets, and it was there for 7.5 months.
Oh, they said about it.
But then 2 weeks ago,
they filled it.
The city put out a thing on their website and said, hey, and I've been talking about this for a year, right? We filled them in 24 hours. The city put out a thing. You can look on their Facebook, and it said, hey, if you report a pothole in the app, we'll now have it filled within 24 to 48 hours.
You should feel good.
I feel great.
If some of this stuff...
No, that's awesome.
You have initiated or at least encouraged them, incentivize them to do it. And because nobody wants to get a damaged rim or have a problem with their car. So we've talked about
roads and sewers,
intentional accountability. We've talked about fees that,
right.
you don't, I understand your position there.
Right.
Visionary planning. We've talked about that. Like we have to.
Well, but we could kind of talk a little bit more about that. I think that
we can.
Kind of the heart of that would be things like, we are going to need a sewer plant and
stop the stink.
That's one of the reasons that goes away with a new sewer plant.
Okay, because a lot of people around some very high-paying property tax areas are dealing with the stink.
Well, they are. The plant was there first. I will say that.
Okay,
but
the city,
but still,
the city also benefits from all of the development and the property tax
Absolutely.
revenues from a forest turning into a holly tree
Absolutely.
neighborhood.
But here's the deal. 25 to 30 years ago, we bought the land for the new sewer plant. And it's in South Smith County, and it's one that can gravity feed everything south of Rose Hill Cemetery, basically, and gravity feed.
You mean no
Bullard.
pump pressure necessary?
Right. And that's
good on
that's really good. And that's important because when you have pumps and lift stations and sewage, those things fail.
Breakdown.
And maintenance breakdown. And none of that's good, right? Sewer pumps failing is bad real fast.
Yeah.
But so when I got on council, I was like, man, that's great. We've already, our forefathers have planned this. And it's like, so how are we getting there? And they're like, oh, well, we don't know how we're getting there. So it's like, so there's no surveyed route. We don't have the easements to get there. It's like, no. So Mayor Hines allowed me to spend like $500,000 a year every year I was on council. And we made the route, got a surveyor, did all that, like made sure we could get a gravity line all the way there. And we shot it and we figured out what our easement should be. And we were supposed to start buying the easements. Well, as soon as I rolled off council, that budget item went bye-bye.
Because of your relationship to Martin Hines?
No, Martin Hines rolled off too.
Right, but I'm saying you guys had kind of...
we had the same vision.
It incepted with you guys.
Yeah.
And then you guys were both gone.
Yep. And then it just stopped. So we know where we need to go. We still don't own the route. So the day we wake up and we need this sewer plant, I akin it to a graveyard plot. If you go buy a graveyard plot, they ask you, are you in need or are you not in need?
And the price is different?
The price is very different. It's like 2-3 times.
But me being a personal injury lawyer, familiar with the laws where things happen, the eminent domain laws have strengthened for the states over the last 10, 20 years dramatically, right? I mean, the holdouts really can't change what they get much. It's going to be fair market value.
Well, but the reality is that's back to my in need or out of need. Like in need, we're having to do eminent domains and stuff. If you're doing out of need, we got plenty of runway to get out there and make reasonable deals with landowners to have access in the future. So that's the kind of things where we're not doing that.
Business. Okay. The theme that you seem to suggest without saying it all the time is a capacity for business. That is to understand how things get built.
Yeah.
Not overnight, how things have to be thought about ahead of time and planned for. That's what you kind of keep saying.
It is. And I think there's some caveats to that hog tie our city, frankly.
Right.
And part of that is our term limits. I am everybody should have term limits guy. Right. I firmly believe that. Here's what I will say. Our city of Tyler term limits put us in a position where this sewer plant I'm talking about, like it's a 10 to 20 year planning project. And if the guys who need to be planning on it and putting money toward it are only going to be around for 6, is it their priority?
And that's a working committee of some kind that extends beyond, and new people come on as old people stay and go on.
With the vision that puts these things, especially these big infrastructure things, like we are going to need a new water plant for more capacity from Palestine or expand our current water plant at some point. And this sewer plant's going to have to be built at some point. And it is one of those deals where when the guys who control the budget have zero impetus to pay for that now, that is just kicking the can to our kids. And that's the kind of stuff we have to put processes in place. I love your idea of a separate committee. I haven't thought about that in relation to specifically that. I thought about it in relation to the water bills. We're going to do that with our water rate structure. We're going to bring in guys from other water systems and even our community to actually speak into what we should be doing on our water rates and our water billing. But I love that idea of having a committee that creates continuity on that.
I'm just here for the city.
Right. No, but seriously, it's like you immediately identified, there needs to be some cohesive contingent.
If it's a need in the future, there needs to be a thought about it now.
Right. And obviously, they bought the land. Somebody went that far, and we're not
why does it stink?
Right.
Hey, inquiring minds want to know, John Nix, why does it stink?
So do you know what we pump into the sewer plant down there?
No, I try to, I've heard about the process before, and it sounds horrible. And I'm
Yeah.
like, how is that our drinking water?
That's not our drinking
Okay,
water.
good.
It's
Does
just
it go to
sewer
a
plant.
water treatment plant though?
No.
Okay, good.
There are some cities that do that.
I know that's what
Wichita Falls has a black water plant, and that means it's taking
sewer water,
sewer water.
filter.
Well, so I mean, this is the way it happens. So whether people want to hear it or not, but basically what happens is all the sewage goes to the plant. It is treated, it's aerated, essentially to where the solids and the water are separated. The water is then treated again, and then the water goes into a creek.
Okay.
And then eventually gets to Lake Tyler, Lake Palestine. And so, I mean, it comes full circle. It comes full circle. But the reality is that's how the process works, right?
And so it stinks over there.
It stinks over there
at given times of the process.
Yeah.
Okay. And the solution for that, if there is one, would be what?
It needs to move.
Okay.
When I was on council, I can't remember how
is
many.
It going to stink wherever it goes? Or is there some dome that you put on it to stop the smell?
Okay. So I've heard the dome argument. And I've not researched the dome argument.
I don't know.
Because here is my first blush response to the dome argument. So sewage produces gas, right?
Right. I mean, it's like some kind of methane or sulfur.
What are you going to do with a dome over a gas producing thing? Anyway, they may have a special dome that I have not researched at all. But at first blush, to think of something that produces methane gas sitting underneath the dome really sounds like you're making a bomb to me.
Yeah.
But, and then, effective management. We've talked about that too.
We have.
And I don't, here's the deal. I've heard the fear mongering that I'm going to go in and just roll the city up into a ball and, and it's just not true. Like, my goal is to make sure that we're running as efficient as possible and make sure that we have policies in place. Like, I believe this whole library thing would have been completely avoided with just good policies. Like, the books I'm talking about that need to be reshelved are not allowed in any of our school libraries in the state because of what's in them.
Okay. So you say there's a precedent for that. That's not you and your wife starting some brand new, crusade of some kind.
No. They're already not allowed in school libraries.
All right, let's go with, here's the last 5, okay?
Yeah.
And these are, I wrote these and I thought, you know what? I'd like to ask both of these guys, and it's a range of things, including the obvious, which the first one is, why do you want to be mayor?
I want to be mayor because when I identified these issues and looked at who was on council and who was running for mayor, I truly don't believe anybody's going to do the work that needs to be done to address these issues. And I will, and I've proven that in the past, and that's what I do.
You say you're more committed, more experienced, and already have knowledge of what the problem is.
I think I'm uniquely qualified to address the issues the city currently has.
All right, and that was my next question. Why will you be a better mayor at this moment in time for Tyler as opposed to some other point in time? What is it about now?
I think that it's because of what needs to be fixed right now.
What we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think our conversation is I mean, that is it, man. This is the stuff that needs to be addressed.
And this kind of connects to that. At the end of 6 years, assuming that you're elected and reelected and your term limited, right? Like the mayors before.
Correct.
How's the city better because you were the mayor over that 6-year period of time?
Yeah. So I think that what I'd like to point to is we're going to address very specific things. And I've already kind of had a whack at it, so to speak, right? Like when I was on council.
Right,
like
you've seen a lot more than
Martin was a very efficiency and infrastructure-driven mayor as well. And I would say that the council I was on at that time was all aligned, and we fixed a lot of stuff. And a lot of our fixes are gone 6 and 7 years later. And that's been something I've been watching. And then I look back to what Kevin did 30 years ago. And frankly, a lot of the changes he made, and I'm sure the same thing happened to some of his changes. They went away in 5 to 6 years. But there were some fundamental changes and culture changes he made at the city that lasted decades.
It's more business-like.
Yes.
Right.
And that is why right now, and why those things. And because I think that I've already seen, quote, changes that didn't take, and I've seen how fast they can disappear. And so they need to be done different. They need to be fixed different so that they last, and so that when we hand this thing off to the next mayor, like, he is in a great position and coasting. And I'd say one of the things that surprises me in that, and I really don't want to squirrel too much here, and I'm sorry, but when I was on council, we were planning for when we had money, because we had like 1% and 0.5% growth every year. This council for the last 6-7 years, they've had 5% years. They've had 8% year, all growth. Like, their revenue's up 50% from when I left council to now. And they've had money, and yet things like the roads have not had any increase in their maintenance funding.
They've devoted that maybe to downtown and the sewer project that's been forced upon us.
Well, but they're paying for consent decree with water revenue bonds. They're not paying for that out of regular revenue.
Let me hit this little subplot of that last question just so I get it in. And it's important, I think. Public transportation, I've seen, because I'm a very aware person. I watch people. I see how fortunate I am, how less fortunate many people are.
Yep.
And, I think the mayor kind of sets the tone and the priorities, right, for the budget, for what is going to be, the parks, for instance, were a big deal to Don Warren.
So was transportation.
Right. And
so is public transportation.
Right. And then those things might not be something that you and I ever utilize, or we might a little bit, right?
Right.
But it's a quality of life issue for people who don't have much more or other ways to get around, right?
100%.
And so if you're elected mayor, as you look at the savings in other places, the process is being better, would you also keep in your mind, that there are these out here where services could be cut, but it would be disproportionately painful?
Well, and public transportation is actually a very unique animal in that, in the city budget, in that statement. So it's one of the things we get a lot is the wrong word. We get more than in almost any area other than the airport of federal aid. And so most of the programs we have are either required because of the size of our city is. There's a lot of programs we have for public transportation that are federally required because we're a city over 100,000.
And we can't count on ourselves to do it if we're not forced to it.
That's right.
Okay,
I mean, obviously, with a consent decree.
I'm just saying, if we don't fix the sewer, we're not going to have a bus for a guy to get a ride to work.
Right. And it is one of those, and if the road's undrivable, like all those things, like it really does, in my opinion, all come back to infrastructure. But public transportation is something that is, in our town, it needs some deep solutions, and it needs some deep solutions all the way back to planning and zoning. And I'm going to say that from a standpoint that our planning and zoning is not conducive to creating population centers. And what makes public transportation successful or even feasible anywhere is the fact that you can run a bus route through highly or more densely populated areas.
Tyler's a hard place to get around.
And
right?
it is a hard place. And we've got actual zoning laws that discourage us from even, like, in parts of Broadway, like, no. Don't change the density here.
It'll impact traffic.
Don't change the density there. So the first thing that, and I mean this, right? Like, it is about how you're planning your city. Because how your city is made up completely dictates if any public transportation system is even going to be successful or effective, right? It is one of those deals, like if they're driving 10 miles to a population center and they're driving through single family homes that don't need it for 10 miles all the way to the other side, that is never going to be effective or really useful public transportation, right? It's never going to sustain itself. It's never going to last. And not that it needs to sustain itself. That's why there's federal grants and stuff, right? Like fundamentally it usually doesn't, and that's okay.
Not everything in government
Right.
is meant
It's not.
to be a business decision. Some of it
No.
has to be,
It's a service to the
promote the
citizens.
general welfare.
Service to the citizens,
Right.
absolutely. And that's what the city is at the end of the day. It's not supposed to generate revenue. It's supposed to be a service to the citizens.
Well,
And so, I mean,
in order to get all this revenue,
right.
it's question 4. Do you believe coordinating with the county and the TEDC is pretty important to maintain that relationship and coordination?
It's fundamentally important. I mean, what the county can offer as far as growth potential and land to people that are businesses that are coming in, say factories or whatever it is, plants, and what the TEDC does to just connect the dots on that and sometimes put real dollars behind, right? Like
Right. They bought land.
Yep, bought land. They've sold land at a loss to make sure a deal worked. And so, but the city will always, as the predominant utility company for wet utilities in the county and for the hub that we are, like, it has to be in that discussion. It has to be a primary part. We have to more than, we don't just participate in word. We have to participate in action and actually helping those things happen.
Well, I had Scott Martinez on the show, and he said
He's great.
when I said everybody run. He said I can work with any of those people. So, that sounds like that wouldn't be problematic for what they've done and your administration if you're elected.
No.
All right, last one is always, I always love this in politics because the other people can never say anything nice about each other. Okay, and this isn't Stewart. What has Don Warren done well as our mayor?
Don and I were on planning and zoning together, and then we served on council together as councilmen together. So I've known Don for a long time. I love Don, and I mean that sincerely. And honestly, everybody that was even in the mayor's race that isn't anymore, and Stewart, like, the beautiful thing
There's
is,
no bad guy here.
Right. And it really is a different set of priorities, and that's it. And
there's a competent field, and it's narrowed to 2.
Yeah, right now. But back to Don, kind of in that context, like, Don is so much fun, and I truly believe that his goal is to make this town the best place and the funnest place possible to live. And
where all people get along.
All people get along.
That's kind of his thing, isn't it?
Yeah. And and it's not fake, right?
No,
like,
I think it's
Don
real.
is real.
The
like,
parks.
That is,
the parks.
Yep.
And, he rides in the Juneteenth parade. He goes to this. He shows up to stuff that he could not go to
100%.
and not get any criticism.
Yeah.
Right.
No, and I mean it. I love Don. I think that, he just really is. He's a lot of fun. I know he's mad at me right now because of my stance on the square stuff. But I don't, it is literally.
It's a friendly madness.
It is for me. It is for me. Hopefully we get back to where we can talk to each other again. But I do not.
It's all going to work out eventually, one way or another, right? Isn't that another way to look at it?
And I do not. I don't disparage Don's heart, motive, or anything. I don't necessarily agree with the method or his priorities, but that has nothing to do with what he has desired for our city and what he strives to do. He's great. He really is. And so that's my opinion about Don. And I think I don't think anybody would have done what he's done for our parks.
I don't either.
I don't think anybody, and I say that with myself in that line, right? Like, I would not. And has that been a benefit and nice to the whole? Absolutely.
Do you think that same love of city was the driving force behind the downtown project?
I think it could have been. I
mean,
just, like I said, my issues are execution. And,
I understand.
And that has, once again, I'm for the downtown project. It needed to be updated. I'm down there with my wife all the time, eating dinner and, on date night. And so I'm a fan, and it needed to be done. So that's not what's in question in my mind.
Well, John, I think we've gotten to know you a lot better. I don't know any place where someone could listen to you talk and learn about you and what you think and what you've done and what you care about and what you see for the future. And so I just appreciate you coming on the show. And
Thanks for having me. It was a great opportunity. It was nice to meet you, too.
Yeah, my time right now.